Thank you for coming. It's great to see such a big turnout this evening. I'm new here, District 67 as of July 1st, and although I've had an opportunity to meet many of you, there's still quite a few faces I see out there that I haven't had the chance to meet yet, so I hope we'll get to know each other over the coming months. Tonight we have a series of presentations for you to provide you a lot of factual information about our district's facilities and finances. First, we thought we'd review for you our district's academics. In the fall of 2010, District 67 was named as one of the top performing elementary school districts in Cook County by Chicago Magazine. And since 2006, an average of 93% of the students meet or exceed ISAT expectations. That's quite a feat. I don't know if you've, yes, I agree, you need a round of applause for that. I'm sure you're probably aware there are many school districts in the state of Illinois that are not making adequate yearly progress right now, and kudos to you and your parent home support, because the kids are doing a great job. The district's been very financially responsible. There's been no referendum since the mid-1960s. And again, this really separates you from the other districts in the neighboring township. That's quite an accomplishment. The district has also undergone reductions in programming and expenses in an effort to reduce deficits. Faculty retention is outstanding. The average length of service is 12 years for certified staff. It's quite good. And then, obviously, the district's made a huge contribution to the community. In August of 2007, Morton Grove was named one of the 10 best towns for families by Family Circle magazine. And we all know that one of the major reasons individuals select to live in a particular community is because of the school. So, great job again. I wanted to report to you on our timeline of events regarding facilities and finances. Beginning back in February a year ago, 2010, there was a Finance and Facilities Community Committee formed, and last February they reported to the board and recommended both facilities and operational referenda moving forward. In the fiscal year 2010, staff reductions were implemented. In July of 2010, the board decided to conduct a comprehensive facility study. In August of 2010, PMA, who was serving at that time as the district's financial counsel, reported on our financial projections. In October of 2010, White Architects and Company reported on the comprehensive facility study. In November of 2010, the board decided to refinance bonds and issue working cash bonds for high priority capital projects. And in December of 2010, William Blair and Company, who is now helping the district with financial projections, reported on those to the board. So you can see it's been a busy sequence of events regarding finances and facilities. Going back a year again, I'd like to go into detail now on those items I just mentioned to you. When the committee reported to the board, they came up with several findings. They basically said we have two areas of need moving forward. Our operating funds need to be increased because they were projecting a $500,000 deficit per year. They also said we need to have a lot of repairs done to our existing facilities, and the committee was estimating those to be around $4 million at both Hynes and Galt. So in summary, the recommendations made by the community committee were first that the board should begin to learn about referendum options, determine what could be on the ballot, and establish a referendum committee. Again, when the district was using PMA for the financial projections, in the spring of 2010, they reported to the board, and they cited a new increase in our equalized assessed value. There was an unexpected $17 million increase in the equalized assessed value. And that's from those townhomes that were built just south of Dominic's on Waukegan Road. I'm sure most of you are familiar with those. So that's where that increase came from. So the good news was that although the committee had projected a deficit of $500,000 per year moving out, that construction there, that new construction, generated a new EAB, which dropped the deficit to $347,000. At the same time, the district was taking measures to help reduce the deficit. They had staffing reductions. There were concessions from the Gulf Teachers Association, even though they're not slated to reopen their contract until 2013. And some of the concessions they made were salary concessions, tuition reimbursement freezes, and extra duties activities reductions so that our clubs for children were reduced. Also, a decision was made to outsource the food service, which had been in-house. So all of those things helped to further reduce the deficit from the $347,000 projected for the end of this fiscal year to approximately $174,000. So there's been many, many good things going on to help get us back on track. So I'm going to let Elizabeth Hennessy from William Blair explain to you this slide about our 5-year projections, and this is as of January of this year.
Thanks, Jamie. My name is Elizabeth Hennessy, and I'm with William Blair and Company. My job is to help school districts with financial projections and bond issuances. And one of our services is to help the district project revenues and expenses within the constraints of Illinois law. Okay, I'll speak louder. And let me explain this graph to you. What we have, this is our fiscal year revenues in the dark blue, expenditures in the green. And you can see in 09 and 10, revenues and expenditures were close to being equal. We had a different way taxes were collected in levy year 09, which helped our 11 and fiscal year 10, where Cook County then distributed 55% of the taxes in the spring instead of 50%. So that was a one-year help, which evened our revenues and expenses in 2010, accompanied by the cuts Jamie talked about. Going forward, though, the mismatch between revenues and expenditures, it gets exacerbated, and expenditures are increasing. And we see the fund balance line, which is the blue line, which relates to the axis on the left. The fund balance as a percent of annual expenditures drops down. And the reason for that is that Illinois schools are governed by the tax cap, and the CPIs that let school districts increase their revenues each year have been very low. In 09, it was 0.1%. In 2007, it jumped up to 2.7%, but in 2011 levy, that's next year's tax levy, it's only going to be 1.5%. And our projections, using some of the national experts, look at only between 1.7 and 2% for the next few years. So you use that to constrain your revenues, then you see that the state of Illinois is not paying its bills on time, and so it's really created a revenue crunch. On the other hand, we have some nice concessions from the contract, but the contract does go through 2013, and those increases, whereas the contract is renegotiated, still outpace the growth of revenues in the environment we're in today. So the picture is not pretty. The district needs to either cut expenditures further, which would be very difficult given that all the cuts that have happened to date, or increase revenues.
So as I mentioned earlier, the district embarked on a comprehensive facility study this fall, and White Architect was the company selected to carry that out. And they gave us a very nice report that categorized everything into 3 priorities. Priority 1 needs are urgent, meaning they have to be completed within the next year. Priority 2, required, which means they should be completed within the next 2 to 4 years. And priority 3, recommended, which means they could be completed within the next 5 to 10 years. So it's a nice long look at what's coming up with facility improvements. So the total for Hynes Elementary was projected to be $987,500. And before I go further, because I know these slides have a lot of small print on them, they are all posted on our website so that you can go there and review them at your leisure. We also have a sign-up floating somewhere, I think in the back of the room, that if you'd like to get them in hard copy, we'll be happy to do that for you and get them to you. We didn't want to kill too many trees. Okay? So the Gulf Middle School results indicated a total of $875,500 as far as facility needs moving forward. So if we look at a summary of this, we can see the totals for the priorities listed there, coming up to a grand total of $1,863,000. Now, this is better than the initial $4 million that was estimated by the community committee that made the report to the board a year ago, but it's still close to $2 million. So we will need to seek a referenda to meet both our operating and facility needs. The operating needs indicate the need for a tax rate increase by 2013. That was per the graph that Elizabeth just shared with you. Our comprehensive facilities needs total $1,863,000. So Gulf 67 School District would need a question on the spring 2012 ballot that addresses both operating and facility needs. And a limiting rate question could include funds to repay a debt issue with operation and maintenance fund revenues.
This graph is different than the one you saw before in one way. The fund balances go down a bit quicker because we are including in this a $2 million debt issue repayment as well as the need for the operating funds so that the district can maintain their current facilities. This isn't anything upgrading or new, this is just maintaining safe facilities for the kids. So obviously when you add the debt service for this $2 million issue, it makes the projection worse. What we did is simply look at a $2 million debt issue amortized over 15 years.
Now this next timeline I would like to share with you shows the same bullet points that I shared with you earlier, only now in blue font we've integrated all of the events that have happened since July regarding the outside interest that's been expressed in purchasing Gulf Middle School. So we still have those first 2 bullet points the same, and then July 2010, we received a fax from a broker expressing interest in our facility. And I must tell you, this was my first week on the job. And I got the fax, and I read it twice, and I thought, this is a joke, and I threw it in the trash. And then a couple weeks later, I got another fax, and I thought, wow, somebody really has us confused with another business. So once again, I ignored it. And then I got a phone call. And then the gentleman said, I'd like to come and meet with you. So by the July board meeting, I went to the board and I said, okay, I have an unusual situation for you. There's somebody who would like to possibly purchase Gulf Middle School. So certainly not something I expected to do in the first month on the job was consider this interest. As I said, we were already interested in looking at our facility study and our financial health. Then in October, we began to have conversations with the Village of Morton Grove because by then they too had been approached by this outside interest, and they started having conversations with us. What might we be able to do to consider if this would even be something we'd want to think about or not? And then in December, the board decided to conduct a feasibility study because if we would even want to consider this proposal, we would have to know where are we going to house the Gulf Middle School students? Would it even be possible to build onto the Hynes site? So that's why the board made the decision then to go forward with the feasibility study, and that was conducted by White as well, and you're going to hear a presentation on that as soon as this one finishes. And it wasn't until January 19th that we received a letter from this outside interest, which was just a letter of intent. It was not an offer. I want to be very clear about that. Definitely not an offer. It's a letter of intent that basically says we might be interested in engaging in conversations with you about the potential purchase of your school. But we don't even want to get started in making an offer if the community doesn't support this. We want to know, would the community support such an idea? So that was on January 19th. So at the board meeting, next night, January 20th, I shared that letter with the board. And I said, would you like to direct me to start holding some community forums so we can go to the public and say, what are your thoughts on this? And they said, absolutely, as the financial stewards of the district, we need to be able to talk to the public about any possibility that's out there to help potentially improve our financial outlook and our facilities. It would not be fiscally responsible for us to make a decision that, no, we don't want to even consider that. So at that point, we made a decision, that was last Thursday night, to begin holding these community forums. So I called Craig, who was already working on the Citizens Advisory Council meeting, and I said, would you mind if we took your date that's been reserved for that and changed it into a community forum instead? And we tried to get the word out as quickly as we could. We did post it on patch.com, and we do have Carrie, a reporter from there, here this evening. We listed it on the Trib, on the web, and we put it in the Champion. Now, unfortunately, the Champion only gets published on Thursday, so the timing for that was not ideal. You got notification of that this morning, which doesn't give you a whole lot of time to plan. If you don't have children in the district, I'm sure that was a big inconvenience not learning about it until then if you hadn't checked the patch or the Trib. So I apologize for that short notice, but we will have more of these meetings. This won't be it, so that people who may have had commitments tonight will have another opportunity to come and hear the information and voice their ideas. In January at our board meeting, we also heard reports on the feasibility study. We also heard a report on a potential TIF funding option for the relocation of Gulf Middle School. And in January also we decided to gather input from the community. Sorry, I already said that. I'm being redundant.